Welcome again students for another video. So, yung lesson natin today is ito yung part 2 or type 2 ng factoring polynomials. So, kung matatandaan nyo, kung napanood nyo na yung first part natin is factoring common monomial factor. So, ito yung kasunod niya, factoring difference of two squares. Okay, so for our lesson objective, we have factor polynomials using difference of two squares. So nakikita nyo dyan yung word na difference. So kapag difference ang pinag-uusapan, it means ang operation natin usually na involved dyan is subtraction. And then yung squares na yan, hindi yung figure na square na four-sided. Okay? So before we proceed to our discussion, let's have a short activity. Find the square roots of the following numbers. Number 1, we have square root of 9. So, kung isipin mo, anong number ang i-raise sa second power para lumitaw ang product na 9? That is 3. So, to check, 3 squared equals 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 equals 9. So, therefore, square root of 9 is equal to 3. And then, square root of 64, we have 8. To check, 8 squared equals 8 times 8. And 8 times 8 is 64. Therefore, the square root of 64 is 8. And then finally, we have square root of negative 100. So, to give you a tip, hindi po natin pwedeng extract ang square root ng mga negative numbers, negative integers, unless positive sila. Okay? So, kapag ganun po, ang magiging sagot nila is imaginary. Hindi po saklaw yun ng lesson natin. So, hindi natin pwedeng sagot na the square root of negative 100 is negative 10. It's because kapag ang negative 10 ni-raise natin to the second power, the answer will become negative 10 times negative 10. And that is 100. Because negative times negative is positive. Okay? So what is factoring difference of two squares? The product of the sum and difference of two numbers is actually the factor of the difference of two squares. So, isipin nyo na lang, kapag ang positive minultiply sa negative, ang resulting sign ng product niya is negative. And then, you have to take note, the formula in factoring the difference of two squares are a squared minus b squared equals the quantity of a plus b times a minus b. So, dahil ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is difference, so kung makikita nyo, yung operation dito sa gitna ng a squared and b squared is negative. So, difference, minus lang. Wala po kayong makikitang plus. And then, kapag finactor natin ng a squared minus b squared, ito ang lilitaw. Ito yung sum, ito yung difference. So, kung makikita nyo, pareho lang sila ng term, nagkakaiba lang sila sa sign. Again, kapag chinek natin yung sagot, ang multiply natin ng a plus b sa a minus b, positive times negative, magiging negative. So, ito, positive times negative, anong lilitaw na sign? Negative. So, here are the steps in factoring difference of two squares. First one, if possible, factor out the common monomial factor. So, you see the word there, if possible. So, when we say possible, kung posible lang. So, kung pag wala po siyang common monomial factor, then you proceed to the next step, which is to determine the square root of the two terms. So, mahalaga dito na perfect square yung mga terms natin kasi hindi po natin may apply ang factoring difference of two squares unless perfect square sila. And then, after that, you write your answer in the form of the quantity of a plus b times the quantity of a minus b or vice versa. So, what if ang term mo na una mong sinulat is a minus b and then a plus b? That is correct. So, regardless dito yung order ng terms natin, as long as tama naman yung mga factor na isinulat mo or sinagot mo. Hindi kayo nalilito or nako-confuse kung ano ba yung mga square root sa perfect square na sinasabi ko. So, let's have square root table. So, ito yung mga perfect squares, 1 to 50 lang ang naka-flash dyan sa screen. So, para mas mapadali yung pagsagot nyo or pag-extract nyo ng square root ng mga terms. Like for example, what if tinanong ka, what is the square root of 729? Okay. So, pwede mong gawing guide itong table na to para mas mapabilis. So, kung titignan natin, square root of 729, ayan. And that is 27. So, paano natin ma-check na ang square root of 729 ay 27 nga? So, we multiply 27 by itself. 27 times 27 is 729. Now, let's apply factoring of difference of two squares. So, let's have example number 1, x squared minus 36. So, the first step, we get the common monomial factor. So, ang numerical coefficient ng x squared is only 1 and then 36. So, anong GCF nila? 1 lang. So, proceed tayo sa next step, which is to determine the square root of each term, of the two terms. So, what is the square root of x squared? Tapos, ang square root naman ng 36. So, the square root of x squared is x. So, isulat natin para mabilis. Dalawang nakaparenthesis and then x, tapos plus and minus. Again, regardless kung ano yung order o arrangement ng operation. Plus, minus, minus, plus, okay lang. And then, what is square root of 36? The square root of 36 is 6. So, ilalagay natin dito 6 and then 6 din dito sa right side. So, ito na yung factor ng x squared minus 36. To check kung tama nga ba yung mga factors natin, pwede natin siyang i-multiply. Okay. So, since difference of two squares lang tayo, yung FOIL method, matatandaan nyo, first, outer, inner, last. So, ang i-apply lang natin sa factoring difference of two squares is yung first, tsaka last. So, ito yung first, x times x, that is x squared. And then, 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. So, kung titignan nyo, x squared minus 36 ang nakuha nating product, which is kamukha ng ating original na given. So, let's have example number 2. 64m squared minus 25. Again, the first step, determine the GCF. So, ang GCF ng 64 and 65 is only 1. So, GCF is only 1. Therefore, proceed tayo sa next step, which is to determine the square root of the two terms. So, the square root of 64 m squared minus the square root of 25. Now, what is the square root of 64? 8. Okay, so magkabilaan nating sulat 8. And then, what about m squared? So, ano exponent ng m? 2. So, kung isipin mo, ilang 2 ang pwedeng kunin sa 2? Isa lang. So, therefore, the square root of m squared is only m. So, 8m, 8m. Next. So, what if sinulat ko dito minus and then dito sa kabila, sa right side, plus? That is correct. Okay? And then finally, square root of 25 is 5. So, 5. And then to check your answer if correct, so, perform natin yung FOIL method. First, outer, inner, last. So, since nga, difference of two squares, first and last lang tayo. So, una, 8m times 8m. So, that is 64m squared. So, ang exponent ng m natin dito is 1. So, kung i-apply natin yung product rule ng law of exponent, i-add natin yung mga exponent. So, 1 plus 1 equals 2. And then, negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, ang factors ng 64m squared minus 25 ay 8m minus 5 times 8m plus 5. Let's have the next example. 4y squared minus 4z squared. So, the GCF of 4 and 49 is 1. So, proceed tayo sa next step. Determine the square root of the two terms. The square root of 4y squared minus square root of 49z squared. So, what is the square root of 4y squared? 2y. And then, what about 49z squared? 7z. Ayan, so plus and then minus. So, ang factored form ng 4y squared minus 49z squared ay ito. The quantity of 2y plus 7z times the quantity of 2y minus 7z. So, to check, 2y times 2y equals 4y squared minus 7z times negative 7z. The answer is 49z squared. So, this is correct. So let's have example number 4. 16p to the fourth power minus 81r to the fourth power. So the GCF of 16 and 81 is 1. And then kung mapapansin nyo ngayon, yung mga power exponent na ating given ay hindi na 2, 4. Again, pwede pa rin natin siyang i-extract since yung 4 multiple siya ng 2. So let's start with 16 p to the fourth power. Tapos, minus square root of 81 r to the fourth power. What is the square root of 16? 4. P to the fourth power. So, ilang 2 ang pwede natin kunin sa 4? Dalawa. So, that is 4p squared. And then, ano pa? 4p squared. Next, 81r to the fourth power. Anong square root niya? So, 81, 9, and then r to the fourth power is r squared. Dito naman, plus 9r squared. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung isang factor natin dyan ay pwede pa rin siyang i-factor, which is ito, yung nauuna. Kasi, perfect square ang 4, pati yung 9. At the same time, yung p squared and then r squared, pwede rin siyang i-extract. So, ang final answer natin dapat is 2p plus 3r times 2p minus 3r. And then, copy lang natin to, itong nasa taas na 4p squared plus 9r squared. Okay. So, ang technique lang po kasi sa factoring, as long as may nafa-factor tayo, i-factor natin sila. Let's have example number 5. K to the fourth power m squared minus 225 v squared. So, mapapansin nyo yung unang term natin, dalawa na yung variable. And then, yung sa last term natin, isa lang. So, ang mangyayari doon, ganun pa rin. So, square root of k to the fourth power m squared minus the square root of 225 v squared. So, una muna tayo sa k to the fourth power. So, ang square root ng k to the fourth power is k squared. And then, sa m squared naman, m lang. Tapos, what about square root of 225? That is 15. It's because 15 times 15 is 225. And then v squared is v. Therefore, the factor of k to the fourth power m squared minus 225 v squared are k squared m minus 15v times k squared m plus 15v. So this is the final answer. The sub number 6. X squared over 81 minus 144. So kung mapapansin nyo naman, yung ating first term dito is fraction siya. So wala namang problema kung fraction siya kasi as long as na-extract yung square root ng numerator and denominator. So let's start. So what is the square root of x squared? That is only x. And then, what about 81? Square root of 81 is 9. So, sulat natin, magkabilaan. And then, the operation, plus, minus. The square root of 144 is 12. Okay? Minus 12. Ayan. So, the factored form of x squared over 81 minus 144 is this one. So, the quantity of x over 9 plus 12 times the quantity of x over 9 minus 12. So, basta alam nyo yung mga perfect square, so madali lang po siya. Kasi, pareho lang yung terms, magkaiba lang ng sign. So let's have example number 7. 3b squared minus 27. So kung mapapansin nyo yung mga previous examples natin kanina, yung greatest common factor lang nila puro is 1. So dito, meron na siyang greatest common factor other than 1. So let's try 3b squared minus 27. So ano ang GCF ng 3 tsaka 27? And that is 3. So kapag ganun, sulat lang natin 3 times the quantity of b squared minus 9. So, ulitin natin yung process niya. Paano naging b squared minus 9? 3b squared divided by 3. That is b squared na lang. And then, negative 27 divided by 3, negative 9. Is this the final answer? Hindi pa rin. So, ang gagawin natin, ipa-factor pa rin natin yung terms na nasa loob ng parenthesis, which is b squared minus 9. What is the square root of b squared? B. Square root of 9 is 3. Ayan. So, this is the final answer. So, let's have example number 8. 7x squared minus 700y to the 4th power. So, GCF ng 7 and 700 is what? 7. What about the variables x squared and y to the 4th power? Wala, since magkaiba sila ng variable. So, divide natin yung expression by 7. Magiging 7 times the quantity x squared minus 100y to the 4th power. So again, this is not the final answer. Kailangan pa natin siyang i-factor out. So 7 times the square root of x squared, that is x, plus, and then minus. The square root of 100 is 10. And then y to the 4th power is y squared. Okay. So the factored form of 7x squared minus 700y to the 4th power is 7. Ito yung common monomial factor niya. Times the quantity of x plus 10y squared times x minus 10y squared. So for our second to the last example, we have 256j to the 4th power k squared minus 169m to the 6th power p to the 4th power. So let's have the GCF. 256 and 169, the GCF is only 1. So proceed tayo sa next step. 256j to the 4th power k squared minus the square root of 169 m to the 6th power p to the 4th power. Now, what is the square root of 256? So the square root of 256 is 16. 16 times 16 is 256. Next, j to the 4th power. That is j squared. What about k squared? K. Minus, the square root of 169 is 13. 13 times 13 is 169. And then m to the 6th power, so ilang 2 ang pwedeng kunin sa 6? Tatlo. So that is m cubed. P to the 4th power is p squared. So copy lang natin yung una nating sinulat. Palitan lang natin yung sign. 16j squared k plus 13 m cubed p squared. So this is our final answer. So let's have the last example. 3a to the 4th power minus 48b to the 4th power. So ito yung combination siya ng may common monomial factor na siya. And then once na finactor mo siya, pwede pa siyang i-factor ulit. So try natin. The GCF of 3 and 48 is 3. And then the quantity a to the 4th power minus 48b to the 4th power divided by 3, that is 16b to the 4th power. Now, what is the square root of a to the 4th power? That is a squared. What about 16b to the 4th power? That is 4b to the 4th power. So, sulat natin yung next next factor natin, a squared plus 4b to the 4th power. So, alin dito sa dalawa ang pwede pa nating i-factor ulit? So, syempre, yung may operation na subtraction, minus. So, again, pag plus siya, hindi po natin siya pwedeng i-factor using difference of two squares. So, that is 3 times the square root of a squared a minus square root of 4b to the 4th power 2b squared times a plus 2b squared. And then, copy lang natin yung ito, a squared plus 4b to the 4th power. So kahit mahaba yung final answer natin, madali lang naman siyang i-factor. So, ayan. So, ang tip lang natin, once na finactor natin yung given expression, tignan natin kung pwede pa siyang i-factor ulit. So, what is the next lesson? So, our next lesson, kung meron tayong squares, we also have cubes. So, in here, dalawa yung magiging operation talaga natin. Factoring of sum and difference of two cubes. Iba ang sum of two cubes, iba rin yung difference of two cubes. So, sana may natutunan kayo.